Happy Friday. I am so excited for this weekend. I can't even stand it. I'm going on a little road trip right after this. So really excited to be here and share today all about the 5 behaviors of high performing teams and why team cohesion matters. Um, yeah. So I've been on some amazing teams in my past. I really can't even say enough about them. Um, when I was at City, I had some leaders on a team and some coworkers on a team that I still think about being probably the best team I've ever been on. And we accomplished some pretty incredible things together. Same with when I was at Liberty, just really great leadership, really great team members, like learning a ton, sharing a ton, really kind of digging into it and getting to know each other and supporting each other. And, I've been on some teams where it's not so good, and it was just not a right fit, right? So a lot of things that happened along the way, we just missed some steps and weren't a right fit for each other. So having team cohesion not only makes your life and your day better, right? So when you're on a team and you just don't fit, it can seep out into the rest of your life a little bit. Not even a little bit sometimes, a lot sometimes. But being on a great team, you're excited to go to work, like you're enthused about things, people have your back, you're working towards something that's bigger than you. And so from a personal level, being on the right team is really important. But also as leaders and as business owners, it's important to understand that having your teams be cohesive is also going to create efficiencies in your business. Having people that work well together, and this isn't like kumbaya, we're all best friends. That can be some of the teams, my team at City, that's kind of how it was for us. We, went golfing together. We drank beers together. We went skiing together. We were all really good friends. And we got a lot of really great work done together. But it doesn't have to be that. Being a cohesive team isn't about being best friends. It's about building a level of trust with each other that you can share yourself fully. And it's a safe place to do that, right? You're not going to get ridiculed for who you are and for your past mistakes. Because what that does is once you guys have that level of trust, you can disagree with each other and know that nobody's going to take it personally or take it to a personal place, right? So a lot of times on teams, we can overinflate the need for like kumbaya harmony. And that's not it either at all. So once you can kind of fight well, it's like any relationship, like you got to learn how to fight well with each other and keep it respectful and keep it about the topic. That's when you can actually create commitments that matter. You're not getting to consensus of like, okay, well, nobody really wants this, but let's do it because it's the easiest thing to get us all out of the room. Or sometimes, if you've ever been on a leadership team or a team decision-making team where you're in a room and everyone's like, yeah, that's great. And everyone walks out and now all you're doing is everyone's going and doing their own thing. So having that commitment that isn't necessarily consensus is so important, because what that does is it lets everybody then hold each other accountable. And while it's important for the leader of the team to hold people to account, it becomes even more important and more impactful when you guys trust each other enough, know that you can engage in a little bit of discomfort in conversation to say, you know what? Hey man, you said you were going to get that done by Tuesday and it's kind of holding everybody up. I'm going to hold you to your word on getting that done. And it's not taken as an attack or a personal affront, right? So once you're there, you get to like catapult results, and results that are not just siloed, not just like my personal like revenue results that I need to do or like what my department needs to do. It's about the results of the team and where we're headed. So I don't know if you've ever read Pat Lencioni's book, The Five Dysfunctions of Team, but if you haven't, it's great. It's a fable. So it's a great little story about a leadership team. Toby says hi. But there's a framework in there that's incredible. And it's a framework that I work with when training leadership teams and teams of all type, actually. So it's the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team. And what I just mentioned were those 5 behaviors, right? So vulnerability-based trust, healthy or productive conflict, group commitment, or full commitment, group accountability, and team results. So I'm going to walk you guys through a little bit of that today, step by step with some slides here. So again, if you're here, I won't be able to see the comments when I'm in slide presentation mode. I'm still trying to figure out how that works with StreamYard, but some great slides coming up and I hope you enjoy. But if you do, please put your comments or questions in, and when I come out of the slides, I'll be able to answer anything that comes up. So, and I thankfully I don't know if you guys could hear, but the lawn guys just left, which makes me very happy. It's nice and quiet again. So here we go. So again, this is Pat Lencioni. He was the author of the 5 Behaviors of a Dysfunction Team. And he's now turned this into the 5 Behaviors of a Cohesive Team. But I love this quote because it's so true. We focus so much on the numbers sometimes, or we focus on the strategy or, the strategic initiatives and goals, or whatever the hot new tech is. But it's not finance. It's not your strategy. It's not your technology. It's teamwork that remains the ultimate competitive advantage because A, it's super powerful, and B, it's really rare. We talk a lot in leadership circles and coaching circles and, all the marketing out there says all of this lovely stuff. But the truth is, oh goodness, there are so few of us that are actually on teams that work this way. And even pretty high functioning teams have spaces in which they're weak. And it's really good to be able to understand and assess fully what those weaknesses are, right? And from a team perspective, not from each individual, but actually from a team perspective, where are we as a team letting each other down? Or where are we as a team really strong? So as we move forward, these are, again, those 5 behaviors that I mentioned. So the base of it all is trust, then conflict, and those two really go well together. But conflict and commitment are bound together because you can't get to true commitment without the ability to engage in productive conflict and healthy conflict. And once those two magical things happen together, that's where you create a whole new realm for accountability, where that isn't name calling or blaming. Hey, HubSpot, I need you to fix that. It's driving me nuts. And then ultimately we get to our results. So trust, it's really, obviously trusting one another, but it's really about when people are transparent with each other, when they're transparent with, who am I? What am I good at? What am I not good at? Where do I mess up? Where am I great? Right? We aren't great at everything. We don't know everything. And if you're on a team and you're pretending that you do, or even think that you do, you're likely alienating and breaking trust with some of your other colleagues. Now, what's really interesting though is how we're built is going to determine how we build trust. It's really easy to just assume that how I build trust is the same way you do. But how I build trust is going to be based on my natural behaviors, what I value, who I am in the world. But it's not true, right? So someone like me, I build trust, through story. Like, I want to know your story. I want to know who you are. I want to connect with you. I kind of want to know like the nitty gritty. And I know that takes time, but like that's something that builds a lot of trust with me when you can be vulnerable and share yourself with me. For other people, trust is built through really great work, right? Delivering on time, being precise, owning mistakes when they happen. For other people, it's being really sincere and patient and kind. That's going to build trust. And for other people, it's the opposite. They want you to be direct, cut to the chase, no punches, like just say what you got to say, right? So you can see it can be kind of difficult when you're building this level of vulnerability-based trust to really understand what everybody else needs. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little break from the sharing. so I can come back to you guys. Yeah, got to have that baseline trust. I think the hard part too is knowing how much you can trust and with whom, and really understanding what it means to be professionally vulnerable rather than personally vulnerable, right? So it's not about just like disclosing all your deep, dark secrets, even though some of us like that. But it's really all about creating a place for everyone to be exactly who they are and not have to worry about the judgment that comes from that. So really learning who your people are, learning who you are, and sharing that in a way so that you know who you can trust and who you can't, or how you can trust and how you don't. All right. So unfortunately, I think those little HubSpot things are going to keep popping up, you guys. I'm super sorry about that. So let's go back in, and I'm going to keep walking you through. So what are some ways to build trust with each other, right? So as we're building trust, like I mentioned, transparency, right? So being candid, letting your colleagues know about you, being vulnerable, getting to know people as human beings, not just as their set of skills. Being sincere, right? So walk your talk and being authentic in it. So I kind of mentioned before of like thinking you know all the things. That's a guarded way to be, actually, being a knower rather than being a learner. So really dipping into that authenticity, which comes with curiosity, right? Comes in and with through curiosity. And then finally, empathy, right? So being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And it's not the same as sympathy. It's not the same as, oh, poor you, that's awful that thing happened to you. It's, oh God, I've totally made a mistake. Not that one, but something that had an impact like that. And it feels awful. I get it, man. How can I help? Right? Not, oh, I can't believe you messed up. I'm so sorry for you. That must feel so awful. Those things feel very different, right? So looking to really dig into the empathy. So next up is conflict, right? So you're looking to engage in productive conflict around the ideas. Conflict kind of works on a spectrum. And at one end, we have this artificial harmony, like get along to go along. It's all fine. Nope, we're great. Kumbaya. We're a wonderful team. Sing-songy. BS. All the way to the other side where it's like mean-spirited. It can get personal, right? You don't stay on the subject. You start like shame and blame is in there. Oof. So with the ability to create that trust, then team members are able to engage in that unfiltered, constructive debate of ideas. And this is what we're talking about of like, get it all out, leave it all on the table. When you're looking to do something big, right? When you're trying to make decisions and move forward and drive initiatives, you've got to be able to hear everybody's idea. And you've got to be able to engage in a little bit of debate and a little bit of discomfort and conflict to get there. So 5 ways to embrace conflict with your team. 1, rules of engagement, right? How are we going to discuss this? What do we have going on? What's acceptable and what isn't? Because for some teams, and this is actually in the assessment, foul language is great. There are some teams that I've been on, I swear like a trucker. So I really like teams where I don't have to worry about watching my mouth when we're in the throes of debate. For other teams, that doesn't work, right? So understanding what the rules are prior to. Acknowledging, right, people for their perspectives, whether you agree with it or not. So allowing everybody to come forth with their thoughts and ideas and validating and acknowledging that, saying, great perspective. We hadn't looked at it that way before. So that everybody comes forward with all the ideas. You have no idea where the best idea is going to come from. And there's likely someone on your teams or in those meetings that's staying quiet that has the number one best idea, but doesn't want to engage in a negative kind of conflict. So the third one is if you do, tap into that inappropriate behavior sometimes, own it. So there's an apology, but it's also like, ooh, yeah, I see that I did that. I see what the impact on the group was, and I take full responsibility for that. That's an apology, not, oh, sorry, I did that. Sorry, you guys were upset by that. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is ownership, impact, and responsibility. And on the flip side, if somebody's saying something that's bugging you or, doesn't jive with what's being discussed, speak up. Now you've got to build that trust in order to be able to do that. So you're starting to see why that trust comes first, why it's so important to kind of speak up when something's bothering you. And I'm a big fan of visual. I think a lot of people, it can be very helpful to see it visualized. So whiteboarding different points of view, right? Pro and con them, and have everybody, every single person contribute to that conversation. You can even, if you want to take it one step further, have, those people who always speak first, speak last, and only add if there's something new. That's another way to do that. So 5 ways to embrace that conflict. Okay, so stop share for a minute again. So why is that conflict important? Why do we care, right? I guess we care because it has to do with how our ideas come forward when we're looking for commitment. If I don't feel comfortable, like haven't built that trust, I can't call you out on stuff. How am I ever going to come to a commitment with you or trust that you're going to come through it? Or how am I going to hold you accountable if I can't go to you and say, hey, you did that thing. I want you to take ownership of it instead of you always kind of deflecting back. So that's why that becomes important. So next up is our commitment. So go back in, share a little about commitment. All right. Poor Toby's crying in the background. My emails are coming in. Technology disasters abound. Anyway, so when it comes to committing to decisions, right? So this is about a commitment to a plan or a decision. So that's why when we're in that conflict, being able to kind of speak up and hear everybody's thoughts, ideas, and opinions are important, because when you're committing to something, you've got to have everybody's idea on the table to get to that innovative place. And if everybody's thoughts about where you're headed are voiced, you're more likely to get buy-in, right? So when it comes to this commitment, we're really looking to debate, right? So that healthy debate, all ideas on the table, clarity around it. So a lot of times, people kind of want to rush through meetings. So someone will come up with an idea. People are like, yeah, I get what that means. Then we all walk out of the room and do what we think they said. But we didn't stop to get enough clarity around it. So you've got 7 people that are now out there doing 7 different things, not because they didn't commit to it, but because there was a lack of clarity around what we were really talking about. So you want to get all of that debate out and on the table. It's going to save you time in the long run. Then it's clarity. Then once you get clear, it's like, oh, I can buy in on this. I see what you're saying now. I don't totally agree with it, but I can see that there's no better options. So let's move forward with this. So it's about debate, clarity, and buy-in. And everybody has to have their voice in the mix to get true buy-in. So how do we go ahead and now build a little bit of that, right? So 5 ways to get commitment from your team. Priorities. What are your priorities? And here's the deal. If everything is a priority, nothing is. I know there's a lot of people that say you can have 2 or 3 at a time, which sure, but there's only one that's actually going to be a priority. That's the definition of it. So be very clear about what are top tier priorities. And inside of that, what are we focusing on as the number one? And this one, you got to go back, right? You got to go back and review, create a structure from the beginning to go back and revise them. Maybe it's not working. Maybe you got out there and there's a whole bunch of stuff you didn't see. That happens all the time, right? You create a plan, everyone commits to it. You start to put it into action and you're like, oh God, none of this is going to work. We're screwed. So coming back to revise, but put some structure around it. Don't wait for things to break and get on, burn to the ground. Say that we're going to check in every 90 days on this or every 30 days or whatever works for you. I cannot stress number 3 enough. Everyone's like, yeah, no, duh. Well, yeah, no, duh, but very few people do this. End every single one of your meetings with clear and specific resolutions and get verbal confirmation for everyone in that meeting that they are clear on the specifics. Because this goes back, this will tie in with the next one with accountability. If you walk out and nobody's clear and we haven't made that declaration of that commitment and the clarity around the commitment, how can you hold anybody accountable to anything? Number 4, commitment is not consensus. I can't say that enough. Commitment is not consensus. This is not, let's all artificially harmonize to a place where nobody's happy. This is, we are going to get every idea and every thought out on the table and come together as a team and pick the best one, not try to make a camel. And really, it's all about giving everybody the opportunity to feel heard. It's really important for every person on your team to feel heard and to create an environment in which it's encouraged for the people who don't normally speak up to feel very confident to speak up. And then next, we've got accountability. So once everyone is now committed to this clear plan of action, you can see how easy it is to actually hold each other accountable. This is usually when I see, teams come back. There's actually an assessment that goes along with this, a team assessment. So teams come back and each of these buckets get assessed. This is almost always the bucket that people score lowest on, which is interesting because it takes all the rest of them to be able to do this. But it's really hard for us to go to our peers, especially if we're really good friends with them, and say, hey, you're kind of not holding your weight here. Or this thing that you messed up, we need to talk about that. Or this is how you're not doing this thing is impacting my ability to do my job. Those are really hard conversations to have. So creating that trust, learning what is productive conflict, right? Really having clarity around the specifics of your commitment so that you can keep everything topical when it comes to accountability rather than personal or behavioral. And that's a really important thing about that accountability. So the 5 ways to be accountable, right? So you're going to publicly share your priorities and goals. You guys are a team. You're going to share it with each other. And then you're going to go back and share it with your other teams or anyone else that's involved with the process. And I know everyone says, oh, this meeting could have been an email or this meeting could have been a whatever. I encourage you to have more efficient and productive meetings, not fewer meetings. Make your meetings count. Have a plan. Don't just wing it. Go in. We are very clear on what we're accomplishing today. We are clear on who's going to talk about what and when. We're clear what we are meant to bring and share, and then have a clear wrap up and follow up of it. You're going to cut your time down in meetings and you're going to get more out of them. Obviously, number 3, follow through on personal commitments. Sure. No, that's another no duh. But maybe get an accountability buddy. Maybe find someone on your team to be like, oh, you know me, I am total garbage at putting all of the notes in Salesforce so that everybody has it. Like, I'm just not good at that. I know I've committed to do that because I know it's a really important part of this, but I'm really bad at it. So can you, ping me every Friday morning and be like, hey friend, make sure you get that stuff in. It matters to me, because that will actually peer pressure me into doing it in a good way. Number 4, and this is usually the hardest part, is giving each other direct, honest feedback. And here is where my love, Brene Brown, comes in. Clear is kind. Direct communication is actually kind. Do not assume things. Don't leave things ambiguous. Don't guess that you know what they're thinking about it. You can be direct and clear and very empathetic and kind at the same time. Learning how to do that makes accountability a breeze if everyone understands it. And then it says address missed deadlines, but address missed anything, right? Address them immediately. Maybe don't wait until your project check-in. Maybe actually bring it up in the moment that it's happening and share the impact of why missing that was important. Yeah, toughie, right? So obviously, we're all focused on achieving collective results, right? So this is the ultimate goal of achieving results. And we're looking to kind of unlock meaningful team results, not just like departmental or siloed results that, yes, we're a leadership team, but I'm really only worried about what marketing's doing. I'm really only worried about how, what sales is doing. It's really all about where are we going as a company and how are we each contributing to that as a team and holding each other to account for it. So kind of recapping here, recapping here, the 4 ways teams get to results, right? We start with that based of vulnerability-based trust, of owning your stuff, owning what you're great at, owning what you're not great at, and allowing other people to be fully human inside of that as well. That leads us into conflict. And conflict isn't fighting. We don't want artificial harmony. We don't want kumbaya, go along to get along. We also don't want mean-spirited personal attacks. What we're looking for is something in the middle where each person can share their thoughts and opinions and not feel as though they're going to be attacked for them, but rather to exchange in great debate. Maybe poke some holes in the idea, maybe kind of dig into it, but keep it topical and focused on the end result. Once you learn how to engage in conflict that way, that's when you can really get to a true group commitment. So this is where everyone on the team brings forward whatever idea they have, however crazy it may be. Each person is heard from equally. Everyone has an opportunity to share their ideas, whiteboard them out, and debate it through so that you've got this a bit clear, concise commitment. And because everyone's had a chance to weigh in, everyone gets buy-in. So now you've fully committed to this clear direction that you're moving in. It's time to hold each other to account. And because you've got that trust of knowing what people are good at, what they're not good at, learning to take ownership of that, ownership of your mistakes, you can easily hold each other accountable. Clear is kind, right? Little bit of peer pressure to say, hey, I'm not good at this. Can you hold me to account to that? And I'll hold you accountable to this. And it's just known as a whole team that you are all going to hold each other to account. And it's not personal. Again, it's topical. If you can master these 4 things, it's a huge competitive advantage. It's not done well. A lot of teams have maybe 1 or 2 of these they're good at, but understanding that the whole package is really what it's all about. So wrapping up, you got to trust one another. You got to engage in conflict, commit to those decisions, hold one another accountable, and focus on achieving the collective results. So with that, I really thank you guys. I know a lot of this, it's funny. I heard a really great quote earlier this week. A lot of this seems like, well, yeah, of course, Larissa, I'm describing something that's kind of always been. But here's the deal. It's so simple, yet we miss it. We make assumptions. We look at it from our own perspective. We don't dig into things. We don't actually take the time to slow down in order to really debate things and understand them. So I think it's important to understand that if you are looking to have your teams be a competitive advantage, if you are looking to create really high performing teams that can move faster, you've got to slow down and do some of this work. And you have to stop assuming that you're already doing it. having some data, having some assessments, and having some structure around how you discuss it can be really, really valuable and really important. So that's enough of me talking. I hope you guys learned a little bit of today. I hope you saw HubSpot. Love HubSpot. They did not sponsor this, but and if there are other topics you want to hear about or anything like that, you let me know. And yeah, go have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody.